Hi there. Just wanted to make some comments about week 4. Like I said, it's just easier to do this through video than typing. Everybody had some great thoughts on virtual worlds, where things are going. One comment that I did see a couple times that I find interesting, and there's different opinions on this, so I mean, this is just mine compared to a lot of people, is, that idea of minimizing your digital footprint and what can you do. And, staying off things like, Facebook and Twitter and things like that can minimize it. But let's look at this in two ways. One, can you really control what's out there? I mean, think about if your friend posts a picture or tweets out a comment about you or whatever, it becomes searchable on the internet. So it's kind of one of those things that you can minimize, but what really does that mean by minimize? How far can we really control that? But at the same time, looking at that idea of minimizing, in some cases, having those accounts to control that media, is interesting. I mean, for example, I got Facebook and I have it locked down. It's pretty hard to get to it to see what's being posted unless I've approved you as a friend. But I even have a setting that says no picture can be posted that I'm tagged in without me approving it first. So there's different things like that it's not 100% foolproof, but it's there. And different things are, is by minimizing and that fear of having your digital footprint out there, does that potentially hamper you from having, communication and building, professional networks and things like that? My Twitter account is strictly for professional use. I don't use it for personal use. And I've got a pretty big following, and I follow a lot of people, and that's how I one of my connection pieces, So, when I'm in things like job interviews or whatever, and they say, how do you stay connected to the world? How are you getting the latest news? I can use something like Twitter and say, hey, I've got this professional network of a couple hundred teachers that we're bouncing ideas off of and sharing. So just throwing that out there. And another thing is, too, another comment on some of the posts, is, the bleeding from virtual worlds into gaming and gamification. And that's going to be the topic of week 5 as we move forward. So I think some of you will see that we're blending very close together. That virtual worlds kind of took us there. And, a thing about virtual worlds that we were looking at, a lot of comments were made about how I could use it in my class. Some of you said about doing virtual field trips, but the reality is, would you use a program like Second Life or there.com to do a virtual field trip, or would you use something like the Google Art Project, or using, the Google Field Trips, things of that nature? Is that where we want to go? Or if we wanted to meet other people like authors and scientists, would we use something like Skype for Education, or would we use a virtual world? So those are some things we got to look at, is really what that meaning of that virtual world and where that would bring us in. And, as an individual class, probably not use it so much, but where things like Second Life are really coming into play were universities. The idea that we're using Moodle in this environment, where some schools for all were using Second Life. You actually met in a classroom in Second Life, and you communicated that way. And like I said, that's where it was kind of going, and it never really took off as much as I think people were hoping or thought it would. But we are using things like, Moodle. Collaborize is a popular one, Schoology. Another one you might be familiar with, in terms of we're looking at context, what are schools using? Another one out there is Edmodo. That's a very popular one people are using. And one of the reasons is it's, in a sense, Facebook for school. You log students in and they're used to Facebook, they can catch on to Edmodo in about 2 seconds because it looks, it feels, it tastes just like Facebook, but it's educational, lockdown, things of that nature. So we're talking about what schools are using. Edmodo is probably one of the more popular social medias for schools that are out there. So like I said, just looking forward, just kind of keep those ideas going. Like I said, your flow and your communication is great. Let's keep up the good work, and we'll talk again here in week 5. Thanks.